Controversies trail government's handling of situation related to freedom of speech and human rights, as some Nigerians say free speech is threatened under the Buhari government. And the main opposition political party, the PDP, says it is worried about possibility of manipulation of election security in the Edo governorship election. Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is the midweek edition of Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Shehu in Lagos, and we're going to take you through this 1 hour ride into some of your biggest stories in politics in Nigeria. Let's begin with some of the worries of the main opposition political party in Nigeria, the PDP, ahead of the September 19th governorship election in Edo State. The two major contestants, that is the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressives Congress, are obviously not done with accusations and counter-accusations about plots to compromise the credibility of the exercise. The latest of these accusations is coming from the PDP, as its spokesperson for the Edo Governorship Campaign Council, Mr. Kola Ologbodion, says the party has uncovered plans by the APC to compromise security on election day. He was addressing journalists today in Abuja. The PDP insists that some leaders of the main opposition party in Edo State are planning to recruit fake security personnel ahead of the election next month.
Already, our national campaign has been made aware of plots by Oshomole to design fake military uniforms, police and other security agencies' uniforms for APC talks, with the view of using them to unleash violence and clamp down on traditional, faith-based, and community leaders in Edo State on trump-up charges. While our national campaign understands the pedigree of Professor Gambari, we want to, however, caution him not to allow his record of service to be tainted with the violence being perpetrated by the APC in Edo State, as well as Oshomole's repeated calls for clamp down on the Edo people ahead of this election. The world is watching. However, in this Edo election, the PDP wants to assure the APC and their leaders that the people of Edo State will never allow the Kogi, Kano, Ekiti, or Osun scenario to play out in their state. Let it be known, and clearly too, that the PDP is standing shoulder to shoulder with the people of Edo State to resist Oshomole's fake police and other fake security operatives that they are planning to import into Edo for the September 19 election. Nothing, and indeed nothing, will by any means be allowed to bend the will of the people on September 19 in Edo State.
We will quickly get into the matter of tonight, a conversation about the civic space and the free speech in Nigeria. Human rights issues, are those being threatened under President Muhammadu Buhari's watch? We dissect that tonight for you. But first, let's check out some other stories that we are following for you on our political roundup.
President Muhammadu Buhari today chaired the 13th virtual Federal Executive Council meeting at the State House in Abuja.
Altered significantly since 2011.
After the meeting, Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, says Council approved the revised estimate of 5 subsisting contracts. The Minister of the FCT, on his own part, says Council also approved the rehabilitation of the Lower Usuma Dam Water Treatment Plant Phase 2 with an additional cost of 1.5 billion naira, bringing the total contract sum to 2.52 billion naira. The contract is to last 12 months and will provide water for FCT residents for the next 30 years. The All Progressives Congress in Anambra State has criticized the ABGA-led government of Governor Willie Obiano over economic policies and infrastructural development of the state, which they say is below average. Speaking at a press conference at the APC State Secretariat in Awka, the state capital, the acting chairman of the party, Mr. Basil Ejidike, says the level of infrastructural decay is worrisome, especially in the area of road infrastructure.
This regime started on a very clear-cut blueprint and ideology.
Responding to the criticism, the special advisor to Governor Willie Obiano on political matters, the APC cannot fault the government of Willie Obiano as his performances speak for him.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So let's dive straight into the matter that we are going to be discussing with my panel tonight. Some Nigerians have begun to raise eyebrow about the civic space with the recent events in the country. First was the announcement by the Ministry of Information to increase the fine on hate speech in the country. And then came the invitation of Dr. Obadiah Melafia, the former CBN deputy governor, by the DSS. And thereafter, a former Speaker of the House, Gali Naba, over state by the DSS also, over some of the statements they said they've made in relation to security in the country. Those incidents have generated criticisms against the government as a form of intimidation and threats to free speech and rights of citizens. A civil society organization yesterday addressed a press conference saying that they're worried by government's approach lately. Tonight we'll be looking into the matter. For you as a citizen, wherever you may be watching, what are your views on the one manner and the approach of the government of the day in handling the issues of human rights and free speech? So let's get talking tonight. We'll get a reaction from the special assistant to the president on publicity and the media, Mr. Garba, who joins us now from Abuja. Okay, so we'll go to Madam Shehu in a moment, but let's go to Abuja studio with Honorable Tajudeen Yusuf, who is a member of the PDP and a member of the House of Representatives. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Honorable, for coming to the program tonight. Honorable, a civil society organization came up to say there is a threat on free speech in Nigeria. Could that be true?
Absolutely true. I'm privileged to be involved in the struggle to ensure democratic governance in Nigeria. At a point, I was the Secretary General of Nigerian Students. It wasn't this bad. We could address press conference and make allegations, make prosperous statements about the government. We still had the privilege of being allowed to make those statements. Yeah, the occasion that the military released, those they released, the DSS after us and what have you. But after the advent of democracy in 1999, we believe we are gradually beginning to understand the value of freedom of speech to engender democratic values and help society deepen respect for human rights. And fortunately for this government, 2013 and 14, the government rode on these fundamental values of democracy to challenge Ikubenden. The Fasholas, El-Rufai, Amechis made a lot of statements that were more volatile, stronger. I mean, El-Rufai accused the president of sponsoring Boko Haram. I remember then. He wasn't arrested. The present president, Amechi and others, led a protest to the IG, walked from the Unity Fountain through the Eagle Square, did a march on the need to have a free and fair election and that nobody should be intimidated. So how come the same men who enjoy those privileges and are now rode on those privileges to power are scared of free speech? Free speech does something. It puts both the citizens and the leaders in check. And we have a plethora of laws on libel that you could, you used to challenge if anybody made libelous statement or lie against you. And I've not seen such in any of these accusations. What did Naba say? Naba stated the obvious that's on the street. There are no new things in what he said. What has Obadiah said that El-Rufai has never said as a governor? I did say to him of recent. Some of the things he made. So I was expecting that Obadiah should be invited and say, you said so, yes. These are the things I said. It will be investigated. If I was found to have been lying to the world, to carry certain favor or what have you, the laws are there to deal with it. All of a sudden, the Minister of Information had a code, not an act of parliament, a subsidiary law made by a minister, who now compete with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The Supreme Court rulings on this. Section 39 of the Constitution is clear. Any law, even if it is an act of National Assembly, that is in conflict with the Constitution, it's not a void. And I'm happy that the essay to the president was the president of the Nigeria Guild of Editors. You understand what the meaning of freedom of speech. So I think they should guide the administration, that the people who make policy and take decisions better, so that to help the government understand that freedom of speech help you hear the people well. When you gag the people, you have the piece of the graveyard. And it's a time bomb. When people cannot hear their opinion.
Honorable.
And some of us are coming together to challenge those intention to gag freedom of speech. We challenge on the floor, and if need be, we'll go to the law court to challenge it and put those things to test, so that Nigerians will know that such things cannot stand in this age and time. We have left those shops. We have left those bus stops. Nobody can take us back there.
We understand that some of the scenarios that you have played out, that you have described now, my question now will be, what has changed now from that moment that you have described that perhaps gives you the impression that things are bad?
First of all, the mere fact that that code came to be. And the Shehu, you are in this country. Between 2001 and 2014-15, you listened to Laila Mohammed. You followed him. Just Google his name. Google his name and listen to his speeches. Now compare those things to what is happening now. So the mere fact that you are not comfortable with people expressing their opinion is a right. If you feel they have lied, the procedures are there. Even the NBC Act listed procedures to give a fine. You should, one, have a complaint, but whoever feels that interview has infringed on his right or threatened his person. Two, whoever you are going to find has a right of fair hearing. You should write them to explain what happened and what have you. But they just sat somewhere and issue a fine to the radio station. We are not in the banana republic. It can't stand. So those are the reasons why we are worried. The mere fact that there's such attempt is scary.
Honorable, the world we belong to now is perhaps different from what we experienced a year ago, 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. With what we are seeing across the world, as not only in Nigeria, in the United States, in the 2016 election, we know what fake news and hate speech cost them in their country. Do you think that the approach of government shouldn't be different in handling some of these phenomenon that has bedeviled our society?
Those climb where you refer to, what has the government done? They deliberately increase the tempo of disseminating the right information. They engage people every time. And when they identify such false alarm, they give a contrary position to dispel it. And whoever makes those allegations are made to face the wrath of the law. Not that they come out with a code all of a sudden. By who? Who determined the hate speech? The Minister of Information? No. It should be the law court. And there should be procedures. All we are saying that the procedures must be seen as transparent, must be seen as fair, must not be seen as an attempt to gag the people. And one thing about justice, it must not only be done, it must be seen as done. Justice is not done in secrecy. Justice is not a prerogative of one group. Justice is for all.
Okay, just a moment. Honorable.
Nobody is challenging that. And that is what it should be. We must, at every point, be on our toes to have, laws, procedures, and whatever, check the dynamism of the generation we are in. But not in this manner.
All right, Honorable, let's hear from the spokesperson of the president. Yeah, just a moment. I'm now being joined now by the Special Assistant to the President of Media and Publicity, Madam Garba Shehu. Let me first and foremost begin by asking you about the video of the visit of the former national chairman of the APC, Mr. Adams Oshiomhole, who was captured and when he visited the villa with the president's chief of staff. Let me show you that video, which is generated some controversy now, and the allegations that have come on that. Malam Shehu, the allegation is that there is a plan to intimidate opposition in Edo State. Can you clarify to us that engagement that has become now an instrument or an incident of controversy?
Well, let me first of all tell you that the recording incident was unfortunate because journalists with cameras there to report events, not to bug people. What we had in the villa the other day was a bugging incident. And because the people who did the bugging were in a hurry to black paint some leaders of the administration, they edited facts to suit their own purpose. It is unfortunate. The conversation between the chief of staff and Adams Oshomole was basically about the president's expressed concern that the two sides to the contest, mainly PDP and the APC, are both complaining that the thugs bearing weapons were intimidating. President's clear directive was whoever is caught with weapons, displaying it or using it or about to do so should be arrested. This was the conversation. It was not about arresting opposition people in Edo. The president is a product of opposition politics, so he cannot undermine opposition in this country.
I mean, one of the promises of the president, the campaign promise, is to ensure that there is free and fair, credible election under his watch. But with the fear and the accusation coming from the opposition that they have information that the security might be used to compromise the process, how is the president reacting to that? And are there assurances that nothing of such will happen?
Well, let me say that if it is the thuggish threat coming from PDP, we are used to that. The idea is to intimidate people, to black paint every state institution. The judiciary has not escaped a blemish by PDP. The police, the army, the INEC, there is nobody that is free of PDP harassment, intimidation, and blackmail in situations where they think or they fear that they might be losing advantages that they think they have. This is not how electoral contests should be run. What is the president thinking about this? The president's directive clearly is that he wants to do elections in the country, leave behind a legacy of elections better than the one that brought him to office. And his clear directive to all of them is go out there and do the right things. And he expects nothing less from the police and the INEC and all other security agencies.
But Malam Shehu, if you look at what happened in Bayelsa and Kogi elections, which happened on the same day, INEC came out at a post-election analysis, their own report stating that security was compromised against their own will and agenda for that election. INEC, that is the umpire in that election, came out to say security was their major problem. And perhaps for those who are saying that they foresee that security is going to be compromised, don't you think that they have a premise to think so?
In all of those accusations, I am sure the records did not state that this was on the direction of President Muhammadu Buhari. This is not that kind of president.
Let's take a breather. But when we come back, Mr. Shehu, I would like you to react to the fears of civil society organizations that under President Buhari, free speech is being threatened and that the media is in the process of being gagged. You're going to be telling us what the president thinks about this and the way forward for Nigeria. That's next on the program, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get back to the conversation about the atmosphere of free speech and issues of human rights under President Muhammadu Buhari. How has the government fared in handling some of these issues that are the hallmark of democracy? Mr. Garba Shehu is a senior special assistant to President Buhari on media and publicity. He's been speaking to us on the program, and I have as well from Abuja, a member of the opposition and a member of parliament, Honorable Tajudeen Yusuf. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time tonight. Let me get back to Malam Shehu. For some of the incidents that have been described as unprecedented in the history, at least the recent history of Nigerian democracy. In fact, some people have described that what did not happen under the military is perhaps happening under the watch of President Buhari in relation to free speech. Is the president worried about the scenario and the fear that free speech is being threatened under his watch?
Please, this is Nigeria. This is not Mali. Can you cite examples? I can't see the kind of examples that justify this hyperbole you are projecting. Can we get examples from you?
These are not my words. These are the worries of a civil society organization yesterday. And I will go over, just a moment, Mr. Shehu. Just a moment. Let me describe to you some of the incidents they have brought up in the past few days. First is the incident relating to Dr. Obadiah Melafia. Another is the incident relating to the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Gali Nababa, who were invited by the DSS. And these are incidents that have happened in the past few days. Just also, recently, the Minister of Information said there is going to be a hike in the fine on hate speech in the country. These are some of the incidents that have been drawn by the opposition, the civil society, and they are alleging that there is a threat on free speech.
Okay, so what is unprecedented there? Is this the first time the Department of Security Service is inviting people for questioning? When somebody claiming to be a responsible citizen makes such a claim as the Obadiah Melafia did, saying that a governor is commander of Boko Haram and he shouldn't be asked questions? So what kind of society do we want? We are leading a country of people who will go to UK and America and obey all the laws. And in the country, when there is an enforcement, they start crying. Please, Naba has himself said his business had nothing to do with President Muhammadu Buhari. So what is political about it? And as for the increase in the charge against hate speech, perhaps in the assessment of the minister, the 500,000 that was in place was not to be respected. It was not effective in curtailing these things because somebody picking rumor from, say, Fulani women selling acha, saying people are Boko Haram, and is going to the radio to announce that. And an irresponsible radio station takes that and says, this is fit for broadcast. Come on, what are we dealing with? There has to be law enforcement in this country, as is happening with our citizens when they go outside the country. This is a country where a South African lady looked at a leading religious fellow in this country and said, this is South Africa, this is not Nigeria. This is how we want us to treat. Is this how they want us to continue to be treated?
Malam Shehu, you're a senior colleague. Some of us were younger in journalism when you were active in practice. You were a former president of the Guild of Editors, perhaps one of the highest bodies in the practice of journalism in the country. And let me ask you, some of the scenarios that you have played, that you have described tonight, did they play out when you were practicing actively in journalism?
They did. Worse things did play. In fact, as recently as 3 years ago, armed men, as recently as a year before President Buhari came into office, soldiers blocked the roads, seized the newspaper copies, and shut down newspaper houses. It has happened. My colleagues tell people, all of the magazines there in Lagos, they were publishing underground. In fact, a Nigerian newspaper was publishing from the premises of the American embassy because protection was not there. So what are we talking about? One individual tells a mighty lie against a governor. In fact, all Muslim governors in the north, 16 or so of them were suspect from that pronouncement. And people say he should walk the streets a free man. but he has done no wrong. So what do we want? There shouldn't be law in the country, and the people should be maligned, and then they just walk away free.
Madam Shehu, just a moment. I want you to listen to this sound bite from yesterday's press conference, and there is a question I would like you to answer afterwards. Take a listen to the civil society organization from their press conference yesterday.
In addition to government failures in the economic sphere, is a heightened insecurity in the country. On a daily basis, communities, villages, and towns are attacked by bandits and insurgents and terrorists, with the security services unable to respond in any responsible manner. Multiple calls by state governors, the national legislature, civil society, and citizens for the sack of the ineffective leadership of security agencies have been ignored by the President Buhari. Yes. This response is made more saddening by the fact that the leadership of almost all the security agencies in the country remain in office well beyond their term limits. Human rights in the country remain under serious threat, with free speech and free expression constantly threatened. Situation calls for the following. The Nigerian government should genuinely seek to implement measures that restores citizens' confidence in its ability to govern. Repeatedly, citizens groups, the National Assembly, state governors have called for attention to be paid to the nature and leadership of our security services, and the President has not done so. We call on the President to respect the Constitution, to ensure that security chiefs who have exceeded their terms of office are allowed to go, in order that the security services can be made much more effective and efficient.
Madam Shehu, how do you react to that?
Well, let me say that whoever that spokesperson is a liar, because there is no section of the law that states a term of office for service chiefs. Please recall the recent interview by General Alani Akirinati, one of the foremost military commanders in the country. He made clear in an interview that they serve at the pleasure of the president. If the president is happy, is satisfied with their performance, it's all up to him. Opinions can be expressed by people, and the fact, in fact, that this gentleman is sitting before cameras and dishing out a lot of these lies is also evidence there is free speech in the country. Nothing more than this can prove that there is free expression and of free speech in the country. So the service chiefs matter has been politicized. The president determines who is service commander at his pleasure. Even the National Assembly can merely make recommendations. They cannot force the hand of the president on this matter. All responsibility ends at his table. These things are at his beck and call. So therefore, he determines if they continue in office or they stop. As for other things he has mentioned, security and all of that, well, we know the country we inherited. And the Nigerians are witnesses to that. Because if he had been speaking in Abuja, he probably would have been missing church every Sunday. Because the bombers would have been feared to have to. Mosques were empty. We also, the bus stops were empty. The National Day celebration in this country at Eagle Square was bombed. The United Nations was bombed. And for somebody to shamelessly sit down there and say that there is an absence of security in the criminality, yes, there is a banditry and all of that, and they are being tackled. They're being tackled. And for God's sake, there is no nation anywhere in the world where there is no criminality. Even those who took over from us and we took over from and are criticizing us cannot tell us that when they served, there was no kidnapping, there was no banditry, there was no insurgency. We have reduced all of that to a much lower level.
Let me come back to the issue of free speech, Malam Shehu. There is a report by the Amnesty International which said between January and September 2019, at least 19 journalists, bloggers, and media practitioners have been subject to attacks in this country. How do you react to that? Perhaps one of the growing concern on the perception of this government's handling of free speech and freedom of the rights and expression of it under this government?
Well, let me say to you that journalism, especially the investigative part of it, comes with the dangers all over the world. So journalists who take to the practice in its full professional sense, and especially they delve into that aspect of investigation, a lot of times they are exposed to danger, not only in Nigeria, but all over the world. And the thing then is to worry is such danger that they face state-sponsored. In many countries of the world, such attacks on journalists have been sponsored by elected or unelected administrations. This is not the case in Nigeria. So we feel sorry that journalists are being endangered, but if a chairman of a local council somewhere in far away Cross River State tackles a journalist in an unfair way, why would these people say it's Buhari? It's our own country, and we should address it as a problem that is national, and not just to personalize and begin to target the president with unfair criticism.
Mr. Shehu, when your incidents of detention and prosecution of journalists comes also in, as part of the concern that has been raised under these accounts that are being put forward, and I'd like to ask you the approach of security agencies in democratic processes like protests on the street. Does it comply to standard global practice? Is the president also looking into the manner in which some of these incidents have happened across the country?
The president does not endorse the wrong usage of state power or authority against the innocent citizens, whether in street demonstrations or against practicing journalists. So let the point be made that there is never a state policy under present administration. In fact, as I speak to you, there is not a single journalist that is in state detention on the orders of President Muhammadu Buhari or the Nigerian federal government. And so therefore, incidents happen, a local DPO gets power drunk, and he locks up a policeman, charge him to court. But don't just point at Buhari all the time.
Mr. Shehu, I'm talking about protests, that we have protesters that have been tear gassed on the street and dispersed by security agencies. Is that not a sign of worry, or is that not an incident that should call for worry?
Anybody wrongly treated under our laws, it's a cause for worry. Law enforcement agents have a duty to ensure that demonstrations are done in a manner that does not threaten the well-being and the rights of other citizens, and it does not threaten state institutions and the property. So in that, they have a duty to check excesses. But where innocent citizens, look at what happened with the Shiite community in Abuja here. A whole deputy commissioner of police was shot and killed. A journalist, sadly from your own media organization, was shot and killed. So what are we talking about? Do you classify that as a peaceful protest about which the police should fold their arms and do nothing?
Mr. Shehu, just a moment. Let me allow the honorable member in the Abuja studio to react to some of the things that you've said. Honorable, you heard what Madam Shehu said. How do you react to the way he described what some of these incidents that you have raised? You have raised objection that things are not right under this government, but you have heard his explanation.
Until some of us, or all of us, that are privileged to be in position of authority come to realize that our commitment, first of all, must be about Nigerian state. If we don't have a country, we will not be in those positions. First of all, when he said the president was telling the Edo, the chief of staff, and they said that the instruction of the president was that it should be free and fair, and whoever causes or attempt to cause mayhem should be arrested. That is not the way to go. You should not call the leader of one group and tell him that. You should have called the security chiefs and give such instruction, not Adam Toshimole. How will he feel if he had called the opposition and give such instruction? By implication, are you telling me that Adams or Shobole will have gone to the president to say, well, I agree, we are planning violence? No. when Adam was seeking second term, President Jonathan gave a free hand so much so that Adams went on air after he won, went to the president to thank him that he never knew could have this level of, transparency, equity as an opposition governor. That is what the president should do. Two, he's mentioned the fact that these things happened before and it is normal. Compared to what has happened now, what has happened before is more than this. I want to bring to his notice that coming between 2012, 13, 14, we were, as a nation, beginning to realize the importance of free speech, and such never happened at that time. And for him to be saying it happened that, and by implication, it is not new. I disagree with him. If he says it's not the president doing it, there's no time, it is rare for the president to give instruction. But the president body posture give the leadership to what is happening. If he's aware that somebody is detained or somebody is being abused, and such whoever does it is punished. INEC, in talking to stakeholders on Edo and Ondo, said, and I quote, if what happened in Kogi or Bayelsa repeats itself, we will not declare anybody winner. Is that not enough indictment on the security? So has the president made a statement to say what happened in Kogi or Bayelsa is not, at the best of my knowledge, or what I think a free and fair election should be? That will have sent the right signal to the people. So I want to say that
Honorable Yusuf,
we have a responsibility,
Honorable Yusuf,
in spite of our political leaning.
Just a moment. Can you blame the president for those kind of situations that happened?
Who was blamed for Boko Haram and bombing and what have you in 2013 and 2014? How the President Jonathan became clueless? So why we exonerating the president? Everything rises and falls on leadership. So if I don't even subscribe to the idea of calling the service chief resignation, I don't buy those things. It is the president that is commander-in-chief. If things are not working, it's on this table. If they did well, it should be the president that will take glory. If they fail, he should take responsibility. He promised to lead from the front. I listened to him. He said, I'm a general. I'll lead from the front. So lead from the front. Let's stop for apportioning blames. If things are not working, what makes a leader is to agree that things are not working the way I think it is. Part of what my fear, part of my worry as a member of National Assembly is that I have not delivered the way I desire to have delivered. So I'm worried. And I'm taking responsibility to tell you people that
let's wrap up this conversation now, Honorable. In 30 seconds, tell me what you think is the way out. You are a member of the opposition, sometimes in a shadowy form of governance also. What do you think is the way forward on the issue of free speech and human rights under this government?
What we must continue to do is advocacy must be increased to put whoever is beginning to channel such tendencies in check. We should challenge these things in court. Some of my colleagues are going to do that, so that there will be, there will be court pronouncement against those tendencies. I pray the court to rise up to the responsibility, because for you to have this kind of thing entrenched in a society, you must begin to escalate them to judicial pronouncement, so that we deepen this thing, and that culture of respect for rule of law will be entrenched. The executive must realize one thing, that yesterday it was one party that was in government. Today you are the one there. Tomorrow it will be. It's becoming a normal thing in Ghana that when the party rules for 1 or 2 terms, another party takes over. In America, it's an unwritten law. It is becoming that norm. I pray Nigeria grow into that, so that people understand that if you're in a position of authority,
Honorable, we need to wrap up now on this conversation.
Side. So you will do things.
Yeah, we need to wrap up now. Thank you so much for your thought. But let me allow Malam Shehu to react to some of the things that you have said. Malam Shehu, you are a communications expert, and are you worried about the perception, some of the things that he has raised about freedom of speech under this government, just as we wrap up this session?
There's nothing of the things he said that I had. Can you just give me a hint?
So you said that the president should take will directly be blamed. Those are some of the words that are used, that the president is the one in charge, that if any of these things happen in this period, that the buck stop at the president table. He also questioned and queried the reason why the president will meet isolatedly Mr. Oshomole without meeting the other parties, that as a president of the nation, he should be meeting them and ordering the security agencies to ensure peace. These are some of the issues that he raised.
Let him read the constitution that they gave him to swear with. The constitution, you cannot be a president of Nigeria if you are not a member of a political party. So what is wrong with the president associating with his own political parties? As for free speech, it is alive, it is healthy, it is vibrant in this country, and the freedom is there for you to take as much as you want, but be responsible. If people are irresponsible as to announce the governors being commanders of Boko Haram, and they don't want to be asked questions, zero. They should get ready to answer for their crime.
Malam Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to President Buhari on Media and Publicity. Thank you so much for your time tonight, as well as Honorable Tajudeen Yusuf, a member of Parliament and a member of the People's Democratic Party opposition in Parliament. Thank you so much for coming tonight.